Hi, I'm Rachel. Welcome to my channel, La Bricaleuse. This video is an episode of the series Costume Professionals, Making a Living Making Costumes. Today my guest is Trisha Camacho, who is the owner and proprietor of not one but two different costume-related businesses. Trisha, thanks for joining me today. I'll start by asking you to tell us about your businesses.
The Pattern Seamstress is basically a costume build shop. So we support and make costumes for big theatrical productions like Blue Man Group, Cirque du Soleil. A lot of my clientele started in Las Vegas. And then Creative Costume Academy is an online pattern making school where I have a class called Pattern Making 101. I have a couple other supportive classes as well, but we do 12-week live sessions where you go through pre-recorded videos about learning about the principles of pattern making, and then with live help from me weekly, we dive more into how that's used for fittings and how they can apply it to projects and start using it right away.
You'll find the links for both of Trisha's businesses in the description to this video. And what happened for you when the COVID-19 pandemic forced the closure of the entire performing arts industry?
I was doing both at the same time, and I would focus on Creative Costume Academy during those lulls, which happened naturally for when shows wouldn't really be starting up, which is when I would usually get called. 2020 changed a lot of us in a lot of different ways. I can't express how much gratitude and like thankfulness I have for the fact that I was starting this trajectory already. It was even hard to start succeeding and start making money and feel bad that basically everyone I knew was out of work. I haven't heard anything. I won't be contacted for making new stuff because they need to work with what they have, I would imagine, because they haven't been making money. And then test the waters. It's not corporate theater right now. Like, they've got to go back and utilize their resources. It's going to be interesting, I think.
Now, you've recently entered into an arrangement with a site called Sew It Academy. Can you tell us about that?
The online sewing community has blown up over the last, I don't know, 5 years. I would say I just got introduced to it last year and a half, but there are so many people out there, and they're a very active community. And Mimi G, who's the owner of Sew It Academy and founder of Sew It Academy, is like the top of the helm. I was following her for a long time because she has an online sewing academy, and people would ask me about sewing, and I would say, well, I focus more on pattern making. After you've learned sewing, I kind of use it as inspiration, as what I saw Creative Costume Academy could maybe turn into. So I was following her along for a while and promoting her, and I ended up on her radar. She reached out and asked if I would be interested in teaching pattern making as part of their curriculum. As I went down to Atlanta, where they are, and I filmed my basic pattern making 101 course with them under their label. It's usually a sewing class, but they release a new class every month that the members can work on. And it's a membership site as well. It's not a course. The main difference between Sew It Academy is that that's a pre-recorded video, and then Creative Costume Academy has the live support on getting that extra one-on-one, applying it to the student specific needs.
I'd love to hear your origin story. Like, what brought you to costuming and what kind of training prepared you for a career in this business?
I love Halloween, drama, and theater in high school, and sewing. Learned from my grandmothers and my mom. I never had pants that could fit me. I have really long legs. Fullerton College in California was the first school that I went to. Step back. First, I started volunteering. Long Beach Playhouse, Downey Civic Light Opera, which I think no longer exists. And I just wanted to learn about what I needed to learn about. And so after doing that for about a year, I was ready to go to school. I'm kind of an impatient person. I was worried that I would get burnt out by doing all the general ed stuff and diving right into an academic environment again. What really drew me to Fullerton College was not only their production value, but they had a certificate program that only focused on theater and fashion classes. It was a 2-year program. Between Fullerton College and LA Trade Tech, I went to Utah Shakespearean Festival. So I got a job at Utah Shakespearean Festival for summer stock and continued my learning there. And then came back to go to LA Trade Tech for their fashion program because my focus was on pattern making. My teacher, Mela Hoyt Hayden, was getting calls all the time from Disney and from Crystal Cathedral and other productions because of her work in the industry. After a couple of shows experience, I got offered a tour, the Full Monty, and toured around, which is another big love of mine, was traveling. I landed in Las Vegas after that tour. I worked on the show Le Rêve. It's an acrobatic show not owned by Cirque du Soleil, but very similar, flying people and acrobats. And it's also in 1.1 million gallons of water. Everything was stretch. So I continued my learning in my own way and learning on the job. Now to be teaching it, it took me a while to wrap my brain around that. I didn't go through the normal channels and learn the normal way.
How did you transition from being someone else's employee to launching your own business?
That was a risky move to give up a good job situation. But I promised myself if I could get another part-time job or a swing position working on another show that would help supplement my income while I was building up my clientele, that I would make the jump. Pretty quickly landed a job as a swing dresser for The Lion King. I'm going to take this risk and I'm going to jump for it. So I ended up working, I think they had something like 15 tracks, dresser tracks, including the laundry and the stitching track. And I ended up doing like 13 of them. So that helped get me through. And then that was my first year of the pattern seamstress. And after that first year, a friend of mine got the head of wardrobe for Jersey Boys, and he really wanted me to be his assistant. And that was with the union. And I was like, how am I going to teach classes, build this business, and work at a show full time? But he was a good friend of mine, and he said we can make it work. And he really wanted me to be on with him, and so I took that job. So I was assistant head of wardrobe for Jersey Boys. I was able to support myself with that while I was building my business at the same time. So I was working a lot, building up that business, but by having that full-time job with Jersey Boys, I was able to invest in my business and actually ended up getting an outside shop space so that I could bring on interns to help me with that. And I had an employee that would come a couple times a week to help support me with the books and everything. So it allowed me to relieve some of that pressure. I was working a lot of hours, but my goal was to get to the point with the pattern seamstress that I could do it from anywhere.
I saw you participate in an Instagram challenge. I think the hashtag was Made Like Maisel. What was that?
That was a challenge that somebody offered. And I was like, you know what? This is what I'm used to, recreating a costume. And so I just did that as a way to kind of tap into my skills and do something for fun. But I also documented the whole process. I'm watching it and I'm like, these are all basic bodices and skirts. This is what I teach. Hey, you can use these basic pattern making skills to make your own version. And then I ended up actually winning.
There have been a lot of issues raised and discussions happening in the performing arts industry as a whole about diversity and equity, necessary conversation. I'd like to bring it into our specific slice of the performing arts industry, costume making. Issues like pay equity, access for diverse populations, and fast fashion. How has that impacted you as a maker of bespoke costumes? And what are your thoughts? Do you see a path forward?
Being of Latin descent, Mexican descent, and growing up in Southern California where it's highly Hispanic, I saw that exploitation of factory workers, sweatshops, if you will. One big thing that always comes up is expressing the value of what I do. Fast fashion, with us abusing people, paying them peanuts for making clothing for us, has really done a disservice to society. And I think that that is beginning to change as well with everything else that's going on. We are garment workers, and it is a skill that should be appreciated, that I think has been depreciated, and there's so many horrible examples of that. But at the same time, what we do as costume makers, I equivalent more to a couture fashion. It's not production fashion, it's couture fashion. And that definitely, it is made exactly to you. And there's an even higher level of skill that needs to be put in place. The quality is different when you're asking to use something every day, sometimes twice a day, wash it every day, and then do crazy things like flip around, do splits, handstands, and everything else in it. So it's a different abuse that they put on these costumes. I did have a couple of clients who wanted personal clothing, and it was very hard to explain the value of, well, I can go and get that shirt for $50, $5, at a store. Why are you charging me so much more? It was because of that couture time that you're putting in. This is made to you. It's not made in a production line setting. And that's something that's relevant in me as a business owner and making money on that. And I think that it was harder for normal society to understand that, because their only knowledge is what they see in the store. Like, they don't have a strong connection to it. So I think that the resurgence of sewing in general, with people actually getting into it and buying a pattern at the store and putting it together and still having it not fit quite right. Like, it's more than just the sewing even. It's also about fine tuning and making it work for what you're trying to make it work for. So I think that all of it is kind of coming to a head and the awareness is becoming greater too.
Thank you so much for your time today and your generosity of sharing information about yourself and your two amazing businesses, Pattern Seamstress and Creative Costume Academy. I've loved talking with you and sharing your story with my viewers. And thank all of you for joining me in yet another episode of Costume Professionals, making a living, making costume.